It's good.
All set?
Hold on one sec.
Down here, look, got it.
Everybody's in. And we are recording.
Okay.
Looks up.
That's the Sagaponic background.
Oh, it is.
Yes,
Oh,
not
okay.
Venice.
Okay. Well, there's only 3 people there.
Okay, good morning. Ingrid,
Morning.
your mic and audio and video are on, okay? Anthony,
I-
thank you
I-
for joining us.
Oh, I will mute by myself.
Oh, look.
Okay, very good. Let's call to order, please, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And is
Nick's not here.
Nick is not okay.
Who are the 5?
Right now it's Anthony and Don and you and I. Robert. It would be helpful to have his input, yes. All right, so were there any comments on the minutes, any corrections?
No.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from May 23rd?
So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye. Tom, do you want us to, as we're still on Zoom, do you want us to give our names as we say,
Yeah.
as we vote?
Yep.
So Robert, aye.
Megan. Aye.
Tom, aye. So approved. Just to review what was finished off from last month by the committee of 2. 342 Town Line Road, 678 Daniels Lane, 44 Greenleaf Lane, and 515 Parsonage LLC. Coming up first in our meeting today under old business.
363 Parsonage.
Oh. Oh, yes, right, sorry. And also by committee of 2, Marcia Lusgarden at 363 Parsonage Lane. Thank you. Under old business, we're revisiting trim color for 15 Jacobs Way. Is there someone here in house to discuss that?
Good evening, members of the board.
Brenda Sussex.
Okay. Hi, Brian.
Hi, everybody.
The color samples that you brought were not only taped down, but then laminated, so they are quite glossy. It makes it a little bit difficult to discern just the texture of what we're dealing with there. I did take a photograph and email it out to the board members to look at. Were there any comments on it from here in the Village Hall? Any observations on it?
Well, just me for it not being in context, the starred one, which is Chantilly lace, is an astonishingly white background, unlike the others. And I just want to know the feelings of our designer relative to that level of extreme whiteness. I mean, it's without seeing it against the balance of the building itself, it's a little difficult for me.
Right, yeah. I'm sorry?
I would agree. I think it glows a little bit too much. I prefer some of the other ones.
Okay. So having that input, do you have any?
Was it, I guess on the record, we should say, what was delivered to us as a sample of Chantilly lace, which is what we're discussing right now.
Mhm.
Then there's a sample of white diamond, Oxford white, and cloud cover, which we haven't expressed any opinions on.
I think cloud cover makes the most sense for what we're trying to do. And then I would say second white diamond.
Okay,
Obviously, we would have no problem with those. It just seems that the Chantilly lace is outside of the family that the other three are in.
yes. Any observations from the board on Zoom? The samples are difficult to get a gist of with the lamination. Brian, did you want to comment?
I did, and I do have Mr. Schneider joining us on Zoom, who is the homeowner. We did discuss bringing the homeowner in, so he is here as well. The Chantilly lace, which was the preference of the homeowners for this new construction. I would also add, just in terms of perspective, the current house at 15 Jacobs that Mr. Schneider lives in, that trim is Chantilly lace. If it helps, if any members of, in viewing that house, that trim was painted some time ago in Chantilly lace, and the preference would be Chantilly lace. And I do have Mr. Schneider here. Should the board have any questions for him, who's the homeowner and endeavoring on this project?
Okay, just a moment. Do we have any photographs of the house? Okay. Abby's going to share those on screen for you.
It's brighter than the paper.
No, I don't. I understand. Just because we approve a particular color doesn't mean something.
structure.
Is this the only picture? Is that the only picture?
Thank you.
Just even looking at this picture, you can see, and thank you for acknowledging that it has been painted in the Chantilly lace previously, which obviously did not come before the board as relative to new construction and where we are, is you can see the abruptness of the change, which is, I think, what the board is talking about. That delineation is something that we hope to mute slightly. We're not asking it to not be obvious, et cetera, and you've given us three other alternatives, which Megan was kind enough to indicate two would be acceptable.
It does give a rather very present appearance to the trim.
Hi, everyone. This is Oren Snyder. Thank you all so much for your service and your attention to our proposal. We greatly appreciate it. As Brian said, we had selected that because it was the existing color. I think has been for a couple of decades. So we thought we would carry through to the new structure, not realizing that it would be controversial. So what we wanted was some contrast. And I think that we submitted a number of alternatives to the Chantilly lace. In the end, obviously, you all what's acceptable or not. We Brian, I can't remember which other colors we had.
Are Chantilly lace, white diamond, Oxford white, and cloud cover.
Right. And so I guess those are in decreasing gradations of abruptness and going down to the cloud cover. It's, part of the off-white collection, I guess. So, what we wanted to avoid was something that was so muted that, in a beige, gray, white, that would be, offer no delineation. And again, we had no idea that the Chantilly lace was not acceptable since it has been. I understand that was an older it was 96 when when I guess this board wasn't monitoring the paint colors. So look, in the end, we'll do whatever you all tell us to do, but Brian, if there's a,
I'm happy to give it to a point and say, I think Megan, you had said 2. White diamond works for me. It's as close to the above in terms of the submission, but just a little bit of difference, which is hard to tell in the lamination. But if we could get the homeowner to come down that one level, I think it would be something I would have no problem with.
that'd be great, and we'd appreciate that so much. And also, you know, again, we love the village because it is so beautiful, and so I just want to thank you all for making it so.
Thank you.
Do you want to go ahead and make that motion?
So what is the name of the color?
White diamond is what we're proposing. And what the board is willing to accept, or willing to agree upon. Any comments from those of you on Zoom, from the board? No, very good, thank you.
Do you want a resolution on that? Yep. Resolved that of the colors presented and agreed with the homeowner that white diamond will be the detailed color that is being used.
Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful summer. Thank you so much.
Okay. Will we vote on that? Yes. Second,
Need a second?
I'll second it, I'm sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
With your
Robert.
name?
Megan, aye.
Aye, thank you very much. All right, the cover letter.
Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Next item is 40 Farmview Drive, David Arnold. Okay.
I'm not taking these off. I'm just for the side.
Oh, okay, all right. So you're Michael?
Correct.
Okay, very good. Just grab this stuff. So there was a couple of increases in glazing that I noticed, and if you can just review that, that was sort of where we tripped up a little bit.
Certainly. So my name is Michael Keogh from Stella Monroe Architects. So obviously with the amendment that we're requesting is through a cost pricing increase for cost of construction, we decided to reduce the size, volume, and complexity of the construction, mainly through a lot of structural and mechanical layouts. Some of the bigger things as far as glazing, the reductions were on 3 of the elevations. So the north, south, and west elevations all had reductions of 36, 45, and 2 square feet respectively. But the one east elevation had an increase of 34 square feet of glazing. And that was just how the volumetric components laid out, particularly with our structural steel chasing column lines down to make the architecture more whole and more cohesive. It just led to a small increase in glazing, I think from 18% to 19% on that one elevation.
The north elevation also added 2 more window panels on the second floor, which would be on the eastern side of the house.
Correct, that's right. So that was the east elevation with the 19, a total of 19% glazing, which was that 31 square feet increase, which is on that A202 diagram.
But I'm speaking about the north elevation.
The north. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, yes. So previously on the north elevation, where that bedroom was, the volumetrics of that had changed, and it was actually we reduced the square footage of the second floor slightly, and that was again for egress for the bedroom. So those are 2 bedrooms on that side of the north elevation. So the glazing component of that, capable of some of the existing and the proposed.
I'm looking at 201.
So on this diagram here, I have what was previously approved in our first AHRB submittal with glazing along particularly the second floor. So this is the main area here where there was a modification, and the new component here is roughly, in a graphic standpoint, about the same square footage. There were some other slight.
That is not what we had approved.
Is that the?
That's a different diagram. Different outcome.
Yeah, this was our board from our first AHRB submittal.
Right, I think it was modified to what we approved. There were a double panel, and then a single panel. Not double and double. If you take a look at the packet that you sent us, it's 201.2. Again, very
So you're talking about the north facing, which is to
Correct,
1.1, and then there's the original double and the single, which you just described.
right, but what he's indicating on his path live here in the ritual is different than that.
Right, yeah, that's correct there in this graphic here.
Okay, that's
Correct.
That's right. Okay,
So yeah, I think
so
there was
we added 2 panels.
correct 2 panels
Okay.
at that one mention.
And the reasoning for that, once again, is that egress?
Well, the one panel is for egress, and then it was just, to bring light into that bedroom. It is the north facing and non-street side of that property. But it was just based on the architectural composition for that elevation. That was one component of the house that we felt was struggling. In the original scheme, there was a 2-story volume over the kitchen, which we actually pulled back. So by pulling that back, we actually kind of streamlined that elevation in a 3-dimensional sense. So when you look at the 2 elevations as a whole. So this was what was previously approved, where this volume here,
What page are you looking at? Or
this
what
would be in the packet that
is
you,
this 203.2?
I believe so. Correct, 203.2. So in the lower left corner, drawing number 2 for previously approved north facing.
Yeah.
The main volume here is what directly stacks above the kitchen, where it was a glass corner, and we pulled that volume back. So that doesn't know, there's no longer a 2-story stack from the first floor to the second floor. We had pulled that back, and then just reconfiguring and glazing for that bedroom is what led to the we actually removed the panel from the west elevation and it went to the north elevation. So that's kind of how things had shifted, where we were still able to get reductions in glazing square footage on 2 of the elevations. And I will just comment too that a lot of the glazing does have a fixed wood screen covering it. So it's a 50%, but we include that as a 100% calculation as far as our overall glazing numbers.
In clarification of that, if we're looking at A203.2 and the pictures number 4, if you're looking at the top left-hand corner, it looks like there are only 4 window panels. That's because there is that fixed wooden panel in front of the far left. Is that correct in what you just described?
Yes. But as far as a glazing calculation, we included the entire building.
Next question on the renderings. I'm on page A203.1. Thank you so much for the comparison. By the way, that's really helpful. It looks to me from picture 3 to picture 6 on the bottom that the upper level windows you can kind of see through to the other side of the house, the sky, right, on picture 3.
Correct.
And on picture 6, I cannot.
That is correct. So previously, if you were to refer to the plans, that was a sitting area. So that's actually a pretty, relevant point. So on A102, the original previously approved plan, there was 3 panels on glass on both the south and north side. So in the evening, if lights were turned on, you'd be able to see through from the front yard to the backyard. Due to the reconfiguration and reduction of scope, that sitting room became a bedroom now. So there is a wall. So when you're looking through the south elevation from the street side, there will be a wall there, so you're not going to have a kind of glass box condition. I'll try to give a little bit more solidity to that elevation.
But I mean, theoretically, you have lights on either side of this wall.
Correct, but you don't have a transparency looking through from the front yard to the backyard. I think that would probably be.
This became a bookshelf and bedrooms.
Right, so in this, the original previously approved, here you're looking straight through from the front to the rear yard, where there is now a hallway with either art, bookshelf, piece of millwork of sorts. So it will, create a little bit more of an aesthetic feel.
Yeah. Are hallway lights always on though? Generally.
Typically, no. I mean, in the evening hours, obviously, we do have a lot of smart switching, so they will, turn off. Obviously, if there's motion detected, but it's not typically will be left on continuously.
Any questions from board members on Zoom?
No questions on my side. Thank you. Thanks for the effort, by the way.
Well, it's not a change from the submission. Currently, there's a. I don't think we did.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out what counts as what we approved the last time versus this time. And I don't love the driveway in the front personally. I know we've denied that on a lot of other homes in the past. So I'm just curious what the board thought of that in the last meeting or if it was discussed.
Drive portion. Yes, but
That's all the way through the front of the house. On the
May
garage on
I
the other side.
present this to you? So you can see this was the previous, this was the originally approved site plan from LaGuardia Design, and the site plan has stayed the same.
Yeah, I was just curious if we had discussed it in the last
Oh,
meeting.
understood.
Any comments from board members on Zoom?
No, not for me. Thank you.
No, just confirmation. Thank you for the comparison, so you can see how fast it goes if we actually can see what you're
Trying to
doing.
chase a lot of things around, understood.
Okay. So motion for approval?
She doesn't want it. So,
So moved.
Okay, second?
second,
Okay, very good. All those in favor?
Robert, aye.
Tom, aye.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
That's correct based on our prior council. So once it is, it's
Thank you.
prejudicial. They can't ask, we can't change. We're very clear about this. Because if not, we're not covering that.
Thank you. Pardon me, I keep this one. Yes.
Okay, next item is 778 Sag Main Street, 778 Sag LLC. Mary is going to go over a couple more adjustments to this site.
Okay, I will just dive in. Good afternoon, everybody. Delighted to be here and thank you for your attention. I am, as we've worked our way through the construction documents on this project, we just have a couple of small modifications that we'd like to bring before you, and it might be easier to just go through all of them sort of in a row, and you know, we can just sort of look at them individually after. But you know, whatever works.
Mary, do you want to take control of the screen displaying things?
Yes, actually, hang on one second. My colleague John is going to do that. Here we go. Okay, so we've what we're showing you is the approved document. So everything that we're going to show you that is different than what's approved, we have the approved version with us so that you can just compare directly. Here we are at 778 Sag Main. I'm sure that everybody knows this site, and there are no changes to the zoning in this set of changes that we are going to discuss today. Located on Sag Main. We can just move through this. Again, these are existing images of the existing building on the site. In terms of the site plan, there's one change that we would like to do, which is to introduce a foundation underneath the existing garage, which we don't have a foundation under that building. It's just brick laid into dirt. So we're hoping to retain the building.
The generator for 70.
Hello? Okay, we were hoping to put a foundation under the building and but retain the garage structure. We will be re-shingling that building to match existing.
Okay.
So here is the site elevation. In context, again, no changes here. These are all part of the original package. Let's keep moving.
I think we're up to page 8 where you're adding a window on the house.
Yes, no, so this is the front of the back house. Again, this is about 200 feet back from the road. This is the elevation that was approved. That right-hand window on the low wing, can we go to next? Actually has a kitchen counter behind it with a sink. And so we wanted to have an awning window there that is shorter than the rest of the line along that elevation, just so that it's a cleaner elevation and we don't have an awkward pocket, blind pocket underneath behind that, that counter height.
Right. Is that something that could be done with a double hung as opposed to a single pane?
Well, the problem with the double hung is it's actually pretty hard to reach over. We have a deep counter, which is about 30 inches, and it's really hard to use. An awning window is much easier because you have a handle that you just push out.
Okay.
So that's why we wanted to change the use.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. And then again, no.
Out of curiosity, only for you, because it does strike me as being totally different from every other window.
I know we've struggled with this, but we really think this is the best answer. So
can you put a mutton or a mullion in that awning window so that visually from the outside and from the inside, it doesn't come so aggressively at you?
I don't know if it would line up though, because the window's shorter.
it wouldn't align. That's the other problem with it. I mean, if we had a mullion that were the sashes of the other windows, it would be lower in the window. So you'd have a higher, you know, it would look like a bigger sash and a smaller sash. So
If I can speak for,
we just thought that this was going to be the best answer.
I think there's quite a few examples throughout, you know, colonial periods of windows of different sizes, and I think
Yeah.
I think it's a nice composition. I think if they were all the same, it would be less interesting.
I feel like the tree is there on the left, and so I don't feel like there's a balance issue going on where if I was looking at it with no tree in front, it would throw me off a bit.
Completely right. There is a huge obstacle in front of the building. So we really won't be even seen this clearly. That tree is enormous, much bigger than shown.
Building in front of that building.
Yeah.
Just to.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, so let's, no changes to the north
Sorry,
facade.
somebody cut a hole in the window there. I understand, I'll consider it. Thank you. That's a hole. Go ahead.
Okay, no changes to the north facade. In the rear facade, above on the left-hand side, the upper story, we have a little reading nook above the doors that come out to that deck. And we wanted to put in a tiny little window up there. The other thing that we were looking at was the finish on the deck that protrudes a little bit beyond the lower room on that wing, and we thought it would be nicer to have that deck expressed as more of a light structure. So we wanted to just express the steel and paint the steel the same color that the windows are going to be painted, which is going to be a light kind of gray. And so those are the two changes on this elevation that we wanted to propose.
So is that light gray something that is not going to be exactly looking like it's relatively white in our packet?
No, it won't look white. I think it's going to be a dark enough color that it will not, it won't be white. It will be, we're just looking at, actually, we haven't introduced the actual color of the windows yet, but the colors that we're looking at are sort of medium to light gray. So there, we would like to have little contrast between the shingles and the trim color.
Okay.
So the garage, there are a couple of things that we'd like to, we started looking at this building, which we realized was really does need quite a lot of love. And so we're proposing to put an actual foundation underneath the floor, and we would like to add a few windows to the sidewalls and one skylight on the roof to get some daylight in there, and then a new garage door, which we'd like to have just weathered cedar siding on the front of the garage so that it would weather out like the shingles and it would all be one color.
What is the material of the garage door?
That would be just natural cedar like the shingles, so it would not be painted. Yeah.
What is the need for the windows if it's a garage?
Yeah, I think the idea is that, you know, there'll be a little, right now there's a little workbench in there, and just to have a little bit of daylight in there. It's just nicer not to use light, you know, basically it's just to have daylight. So I think it, you know, thought it would be nicer as a space to work at the workbench, basically.
Natural light, you don't turn on the lights.
I get it.
Exactly, exactly.
It's nothing more than that.
Yeah, and just, that's the one side that you drive by all the time and you'll see, so.
Yeah.
Right.
It's really asymmetrical there right now.
You should,
It looks a little odd, I think, right now. I think this will make it more, have more rhythm to it. It could do two. I mean, we're not, you know.
No, I like the three on the north face. I'm concerned about the skylight. Yeah.
Skylight is nice to have, to be completely honest with you. I think it's better to get the north facing windows, the lower elevation. So.
let's go ahead with the rest of it, Mary, and then we'll come back to what.
Okay, great. So let's go back to just one, yes. So there are a couple, we had talked about the little high window in the reading nook. We talked about the window at the kitchen sink in elevation 03. This is on the interior of the sort of back elevation. So it's really quite hard to see this window, but we wanted to add a window to a hallway there, just again for daylight. We have a plan that will come so you can see exactly where that is. Next, if you look here, so this is right at the bottom of the stairs that go up to that deck that we were just looking at the rear of the building. And this is just to get a window into that long hallway for daylight. The home professional office, which is the rebuilt existing home on the street, has no material changes except we wanted to remove some skylights that we had in the previously approved package. And we wanted to change the door from a glass panel door to a solid door. So those are two changes that we'd like to do. The skylights were on the interior of the site. The door is actually the street face of the building.
Why are you removing the skylights?
I think we just realized that for that building, it wasn't really that necessary, and the daylight should be just fine without them. They don't exist in the existing building that we're replacing, and we just decided it would be simpler without them.
Also, Alex's studio is on that side, and we thought we did a lot of light, and we have to give too much direct sunlight. That's one of the reasons.
Mr. Buttrick, if you would, could you come up and speak up here? And
Oh,
also
sorry.
introduce yourself for the record,
Okay,
please.
Otherwise, we have this voice.
sorry. John Buttrick, the owner, along with Alex Ching, can't be here today at the site. Sorry.
Thank you.
The width of the street front door of the office would be, it seems rather narrow, is the only reason I'm asking.
Well, I think we're matching existing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. And on page 19 of our packet, there's some new, there's a grid work there on the top, upper right-hand side. What is that?
Let's see, page 19.
Yeah, it's on screen now.
Not following, sorry. On the right-hand side of the drawing, there's the brick driveway. Is that what you're referring to?
No, the picture above. It would be the eastern roof of the single story. It has like a grill on it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That is a trellis. So that is just an open trellis. Sorry, the line weights sort of combined to look like a solid thing, but that's an open trellis that is just shading some seating below it.
Very good, thank you. Wasn't sure if that was more electric panels.
No, that's going to be just open air. So that's the plan.
Very good. Thank you.
So pool house is here, and this will have a cellar, which we've sort of snuck for the pool equipment. So we no longer have a sort of shielded pool equipment above grade. We have it now all in the cellar, which will be fully concealed. And there is one go next, no changes to these elevations. The rear elevation, the north elevation, we'd like to add a second window to mirror that other small, these are very small windows, but just for a little direct fresh air into the bathroom space.
Okay, thank you.
So these are all.
Yeah, the compass of the work. Is there any further alterations?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Anything that the board members want to revisit on explanation?
Garage, perhaps.
Okay.
I just wanted to discuss the plans for the lighting inside. Does it automatically turn off? Would someone accidentally leave the garage lights on at night? What's the plan for that? If you had more windows in the skylight, that'll affect, you know, the night.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could definitely have those on timers. That's not a problem at all. This is a fairly heavily vegetated side of the property, which will remain that way. So again, this building, you can't really see it from the side the way the elevations read. But we could definitely put the lights on a timer. That isn't a problem.
Isn't that the side I'm looking at though here on page 12?
Yes.
That's the side you see from the street and the farm.
That's right. Oh, yeah. Okay, I see. Yeah.
A lot of garage door openers have a timer on the.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
We have doors on the other side, we hardly ever use the garage door opener. There are 2 doors on the south side, only moving. We don't put the car in the garage.
Okay.
We'll be putting a lawnmower and some things like that, maybe in the winter if possible.
I think we do need on page 10, we'll need a submission of the color sample that was described for that metal edging, which is.
Absolutely. Yep. Sure. We should have that soon.
Still hate the window.
Which one?
The one that doesn't fit.
The one in the kitchen?
Yeah. Sorry. I understand why. I
We have
understand.
spent so much time on that. You can't
Yeah.
imagine.
Sure, I'm sure. It's a challenge.
We would like
The
to-
inside to the outside, the inside living space versus what the outside looks like. It's always a challenge. Functionality is key. I understand.
Any other comments from Zoom members?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Can we just go back to the garage? So sorry.
Yes.
Sure.
Adding 2 windows and a skylight is a lot.
I'm concerned about the skylight too, as far as reflectivity a little bit.
So we'll take it out. Sorry.
I'm not sure what, I mean, I understand wanting a throw light in there. I do.
I hate going in dark garages.
I do too.
I can't stand it.
Yeah.
And in builds, you can't see the bugs, the spiders and all that.
Yeah.
All that thing.
Yep.
So that's why we've done this.
I'm just trying to decide if the skylight is better than
Yeah.
one extra window.
The priority for me is the 3, because that'll make it, if it's north light, that's also the reason why we put in the skylight. But if people feel uncomfortable with it, you know, it's not the end of the world for us.
I love skylights. Just for the same reason that he described.
Yeah,
So
more
you get a
likely
north
to-
skylight, it's a rare thing you get a north skylight with a direct sun hardly ever goes in.
It just brightens everything.
Yeah.
It just does.
Okay.
Okay, so but I'm not gonna add it, we can
How
resolve
do
it
you
by.
balance I just don't know. All the windows are the greatest idea. So how do you balance if you're gonna do 2 windows on the side, for example, and a skylight?
Well, I thought they were adding 2 on the side.
They are, so, but if I'm requesting maybe 1 less window than they're asking for, if there was the skylight and 2 windows, how would you balance that out in the shape? of
I
the
think that's
building?
much tougher aesthetically.
I agree.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the 3 windows looks right, and we could take the skylight out if you object.
I mean, for me, is the skylight objection to the way the skylight looks on the roof or because of light emission? Is I guess my question, Megan.
I'm actually more concerned about the windows on the wall versus the ceiling. For light emission and just general driving by.
I think it will,
It'll hardly ever be on at night.
I understand.
Yeah,
You can promise that it'll never be on more than 10 minutes at night.
Yeah.
Why would you go in there and just park your car?
Yeah.
I believe you,
Yeah.
but who knows what somebody else might do with a garage at night. I
Right.
mean, it's not you, I don't believe.
No.
I think the
We're also divines.
wall facing windows, I just have a little concern about it. You're dealing with something that's relatively settled and in place there for a long time and sag, and then popping a skylight in it is a little bit unnerving to me, but I can get over it, I guess.
I can understand the reason for that. I understand Megan's concern, but okay, I'll accept this.
Mhm.
The board's position relative to skylight, but I think that the windows balanced in terms of what is done.
Right, no, I agree with that.
I don't love skylights. I would vote for, if you're gonna do the 3, I would vote to take the skylight out.
And so I agree with you totally.
All right,
Never had a
Let's take the skylight
second,
out.
never had a second thought.
Let's take the skylight out.
all right, sorry. Very good. Any other comments from Zoom members?
Once again, though, appreciation for the time taken to show what the changes are. You
No, of
can
course.
see that it speeds up the process.
Oh, yeah.
Measure.
Very good. Motion to approve on, or do you want to refer to committee on 2 for clarify? We have the plans for the 3 windows, but we do need a paint sample for the ivy.
It'll be a while. It won't happen immediately because we want it to match the shingles, obviously.
Right.
So it's not gonna happen next month.
John, thoughts?
So.
I don't
I'm happy to
think-
come back.
I do not think that we can refer it to the committee of 2 other than for the month between meetings.
So we'll come
So
back.
it would have to be a resubmission. We're happy to have it on record that everything else has been approved, and we're just looking at the paint
So you
sample
don't have to print.
as required. It'll be that single thing, it'll say it in the
Yeah.
minutes that the one obligation is paint.
Great.
Is that all right, Mary?
Great, that's fine.
Very good. So do you want to say that resolution? Eloquently.
Minor changes as having been presented eloquently to the board have been approved, subject to the final approval of the paint color being used on the trim and the metal edge of the upstairs balcony, which may be a single submission on the application at such board meeting as the applicant determines.
Okay. Second,
Megan, second.
all those in favor?
Aye. Robert.
Tom,
Hi, Megan.
thank you all very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day.
I think we talked.
So the difference for the application, when they actually show you the changes, is so beneficial, not just to us, but to
Before and
them.
after.
Huh?
The comparison from the last submission to the.
The savings to them is immense. Sure. And both of these were done elegantly.
Okay, so are we signing off on the permit or not? John, are we signing off on a permit then today or not?
Not until I get a full set of plans showing the removal of that skylight at the very least.
Okay, very good. We'll follow up on that. Okay, thank you. Okay, next, we have a request to move the next item, 397 Sag Main Street, to the end of the meeting for Michael Davis. So we are at 143 Erica's Lane. This next. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah, it's just, is Michael attending? Or is
Michael asked us to move it to the end of the meeting because there was a conflict for someone in the group.
Okay, no, that's fine, I just, that's great, thank you.
Some sort of a thing that he couldn't do it before 2 o'clock.
Okay,
And if we end before 2 o'clock, we may not get to it today. Is where the clerk was with that request. So if you want to discuss that, you can go out and talk to her about it. All right?
okay, thank you.
Very good. Yep, thank you. So 143 Erica's. Application proposes interior renovation to kitchen and dining room with a new window, additions and adjustments to areas of the facade, outdoor kitchen with open structure and pergola. And Phil Consalvo.
Yes, hi, how are you? Thanks for inviting us today. So basically, this project is sort of driven by, trying the existing house is sort of an amalgamation of different forms.
That's not us.
Yeah, and do we have the submission of the paperwork, of that paperwork?
Yes.
Just a moment, Philip. Thank you.
We're skipping this. one.
We're skipping
To
it.
Erica's lane. Oh, geez, Christ, I can pass it down. if you want me to. All right, I realized I thought
No paper cuts, please.
No paper cuts, I'll do my best. Thank you.
Okay, wait, now we have what you have in front of you.
There's just one, it says set number 3 on the packet, is that correct?
No,
Phil?
it's just how many sets we have.
Oh, okay, there's 3 sets. I'm sorry. Carry on, Philip. Thank you.
Okay, sure. So anyway, the project was really driven by, again, the existing house is sort of an amalgamation of different forms and different renovations. So each renovation sort of tried to kind of help the flow of the house a bit and relate the spaces a little bit better. This sort of gesture is taking a former renovation of a dining room and kind of swapping it with the kitchen, which really helps the flow of the space a bit more. So the dining room was originally a garage, which is now, again, we're trying.
Can I interrupt for just a second? We're getting a huge amount of echo here in the office. Can someone else turn down their audio?
Okay. Shaq, why don't you just, yeah, beautiful, thank you. Is that a little bit better?
Yes, much.
Okay, wonderful. So in terms of the plan, the adjustment basically is switching the current kitchen with the current dining room and opening the 2 spaces to sort of better connect them to the house. Also, we're creating, in the current configuration, there's a barbecue that's sort of their current outdoor kitchen directly connected to the kitchen in its current location. We are now shifting that and having it relate to the new location of the kitchen, which is a little bit down in elevation as well. So the form of the actual structure is basically staying the same. There are some adjustments on the facade to kind of relate the indoor spaces to the outdoor spaces a little bit better. In terms of materials, we're using the same vocabulary that was, currently on the house, the same materials that were used from the previous renovation to again try to tie the house together to kind of make it a little bit more cohesive. Which again was really the challenge with this because it is really not a very cohesive plan in its current condition. Let me see, just a couple of quick things. We also added, what we're calling 2 pergolas, one adjacent to the pool area and another adjacent to this outdoor kitchen area to help shield the sun a bit. In terms of zoning, we are, lot coverage, we are within the lot coverage. We are basically doing some additional exterior paving, again, in this new kitchen area.
I love that you're preserving the trees, working around it with the decking. I think that's cool.
Yeah. We really tried our best to keep what was there.
I know you probably need some lighting, right? Pergola there. What are the laws around the lighting and the pergola outdoor kitchen area?
Pergola can't be improved with lights, speakers, anything else like that. That's going to be a typical open slide structure.
On all the decking, sorry, on all the decking, you need the lighting for footsteps and then.
In commercial work, yes, residential work, not exactly, you need egress lights in residential work, but there's no law that says you have to have footlights around the deck.
Could you review, we don't have page numbers, but I believe it's the next to the last page in the packet, which shows existing exterior view of rear of residence. It just looks like railing is becoming almost like a solid material. The page before that. And if we can
Right, this one right here.
upper pictures a little bit.
Yeah, this is addressing very specifically an issue that the client had where, again, initially this was a garage, then the garage was turned into a dining room. The part of the issue is that there's really this connection to the kitchen directly to the front driveway. And part of the issue of the client is that, people pull up on the driveway, they see people in the kitchen and they sort of, hop over the little wall there to get there. So what they wanted to do is kind of define this space, separate it, in fact, shield it from the entrance. And this starts to do this, or was an attempt to do this. So it kind of defines this space, separates it a little bit from the driveway, and again orients it to the kitchen on the side. It's an existing exterior eating area which will remain, but again, it's creating a little bit more of a buffer. And the same thing with the second floor, where that's a family room currently, and we're reorganizing the windows a bit to control the view more now to the corner of the property instead of the side of the property where the driveway is, so you don't have a direct shot. Again, it's creating a buffer or a shield, which was sort of the architectural problem.
So that is a solid type of construction in the upper right-hand corner illustration.
Yes, and again, it echoes what's happening on the other facade, which I don't think we really have a good rendering of or a photo in this package.
Tom, just to clarify, this is the other side. Yeah, I understand. Okay.
I think.
Yeah, but this you can see through. This one is totally white. That's what I was trying to say.
Sorry, just to clarify as well, it's just like a parapet. So the railing that now is just like cables, it has become like a low wall, but it's not enclosing the exterior terrace.
I was going to say, is this, sorry, I'm just trying to get my bearings. The aerial view shows this large rectangular expanse, but that's a tennis court, right? I just don't see any net.
Yes. So, sort of, if you're looking at the picture on the rendering on the upper right-hand side, on the left corner of that is where the tennis court is. We have, a 3D sort of walkthrough that's easier to better explain. We're happy to share that if that will help.
Yes, please, thank you.
Okay, Nandar, can you pull that up, please?
Yes, in a minute.
Are we able to share that?
Do you mind if I ask you a question while we're waiting?
Sure.
Nick Martin on Zoom. Was there any request from the client to take a look at that front facade in general, in the way that the windows and elevation kind of line up?
Yeah, in terms of the pool facade, that facade.
Yeah, can't see
Yes,
it.
as a matter of fact, what we try to do is that, you know, the where we're putting the dining room, and it may be not so clearly shown in this rendering, you know, where we're creating that stone, which is echoing the stone of the fireplace. It basically turns the corner, which sort of echoes what's happening on that second floor with the screen. So the attempt was to try to kind of create a little bit more balance. A lot of the, you know, again, the windows that were there were from sort of the first iteration of the design. So again, we're kind of dealing with stuff that was done in previous renovations and trying to figure out how to make it all work, which was quite
I'm just
difficult.
analyzing some simple annotations there, but it seems like complex elevation for fairly simple scale or size elevation.
Those were all existing, by the way. So
Right,
that
right.
was, yeah, again.
I'm just
part
wondering
of the
if
problem.
your client would be open to any modification of that.
Yeah, you know, again, it's an existing configuration that, you know, its effect on the interior space is
Mhm.
something that they probably didn't plan for. But this 3D doesn't have the white stone area, but if you look at the corner, and I don't know if you're able to do that. Maybe you can travel around Nandar the back facade. Nandar, we're not hearing you.
If you park here and take the path left, where does that take you into the home? Versus if you park and then go down the right path?
All right. I think we're having some internet issues. Jackie, are you able to take this over? If we could just continue to go left a little bit, that might help describe it better for them. And we go still a little bit to the right and look at the corner. So unfortunately, this rendering, if you look at where the windows are in the lower corner of where the dining room will now be, that the attempt was actually to, again, try to balance what's happening on the upper left. You know, again, this tree sort of is in the way. But, you know, it was our attempt to, again, try to create a little bit more balance in terms of the very oddly configured facade. So that was sort of what the gesture is. Also, you know, it now opens up that dining room and opens up the corner of the house to where this new patio is going to be, where the outdoor kitchen is going to be. So it kind of opens up that area a bit.
Just stop there for a moment. Because the one thing I don't see, and the presentation is lovely, but what additional windows have been added to the house? Because we'll need that as a presentation. Before you did that, it's the why I stopped you there. It's the in facing it, it looks like the exterior view from the pool, the far right side has been changed from a single panel door, perhaps.
Correct.
To a door with a window next to it.
Correct. So in other words, that single panel, that door adjacent to it and around the corner are a series of windows that are sort of floor to ceiling windows.
We will need to have that part of the submission before we give you a final decision as to what additional windows have been.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not saying you added too many or any of that. I'm not giving you an opinion on that. It's just an absolute requirement that we see.
Okay. We show it in the light calculation. I don't know whether that's helpful, but we're happy to clarify. Again.
Might be sufficient.
I think it's the third packet. The 3 packets. For this
Yeah, I see,
submission.
I understand. I went through it, I just,
Okay.
it's a lot of pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can refer us to that section, perhaps we can take a look at it.
Okay. In the light submission, in actually the first page, which shows the facade at night. Hopefully that'll sort of clarify that corner. So on the right-hand side, there you go.
Okay, I'm looking. This is one of the, it says lighting analysis. Lighting analysis, got it.
Right, so in that existing elevation A and proposed elevation A on the right-hand side, it's above, again, it shows what's existing, and below shows what's new. So we basically, kept the opening where the door is, and created that as an old glass door, basically, with probably smaller frame. And then adjacent to it is a window, whereas originally, again, it was a wall.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
That piece there. Yeah, this going to a triple and this going to a double.
So, in terms of window sizes, it's quite comparable to what's there now, just reorganized. Again, in order to attempt to control the views a little bit better.
Megan, do you see the same thing I do?
Mhm.
It's minimal. I don't see percentages.
Yeah, I don't see a comparison of what you want. Okay, well, oh, here's existing 30 and
Proposed, right? Yeah.
It's insane.
It's not,
Oh, no,
it's actually less because
it's a little more. Yeah. Another 60 square feet. Any observations or questions to note from those on Zoom?
It's a fair amount. I was just looking at the neighbors, what the neighbors' observations are going to be with the expanded space, but I think they all have sort of tennis courts buffering, which is it's far enough away where I don't think it's too drastic of a change for them, even though it is a change. So
Just to put my 2 cents in, the lot is, it's a flag lot and it's completely concealed from neighbors. There's a really high hedge around the perimeter of the entire property. So it's not visible at all from the neighbors.
It's very high.
are you?
Not. Robert, any thoughts?
No. I've lived on the street for 24 years, never knew what the house looked like.
Okay.
Right.
Just confirming your position, that's all.
Nick, any thoughts?
Yeah, the thoughts really, I think it's a difficult situation because the house has been created in a way that's a bit obtuse, I think, previously. So to try to reduce that would be a further study, but in terms of what you're proposing, I agree with what you're doing in general, and I appreciate all the effort. It would be wonderful if there would be another, say, round of attempts to try to simplify what we see before us.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's pretty client driven in terms of making gestures to the house that, trying to, or doing something that wasn't necessarily planned. We could take a look at it. I'm not sure how feasible that is in terms of, redoing a lot of the existing house.
Okay, those are my comments. Thank you.
You okay?
I think in this particular setting, the increase in the glazing may be something that is not drastic.
The increase in the light.
Yeah, light emission, yeah. I am a little concerned, if it wasn't this setting, then I would be more concerned about it. With that understanding, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Robert, aye.
Tom, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So involved parties. Involved parties for the last thing on the agenda. As far as new construction are present, and so we will go back and pick up 397. Zag LLC.
We haven't gotten to it yet. We're just getting to it right now.
Back to 397.
Yes.
In this presentation, we have the new drawings. Is there a way to pull up the existing structure while we're discussing? 397? Yeah. I have the existing right here. Thank you so much.
But we're gonna go with 518 Bridge first. Are we?
No, we're gonna go back and pick that up.
I think that's just a discussion item. Just the item on the-
Okay.
All right, so
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Joe Lively, architect, here to answer a question you might have. Last time we met, you had asked that we stake out the addition, which we've done, so hopefully we'll have a chance to go on the property. The drawings, while they are new, are fairly, there weren't really a lot of requests on the board. You thought we could get rid of the eyebrow window, which we had done. you don't miss it, looks very nice down there. We had done we heard your question about making the new side door and new window by the new covered porch. Match the existing one, great idea, love that, we've done that, that's terrific. And the only comment that was brought up at the last meeting was about the covered porch fireplace on the back of the house. And then it'd be not be bricks, so we thought, or not be as stand out as much, so we thought we either do a white Lorraine brick or actually painted brick, or probably white Lorraine will go with, just to bring that into scale. Those are the only comments the board that made to me that we've revised on the plans and recall.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify in my own mind, the description of work speaks about demolition of the third floor.
Yes.
Could you, I realize that there's a dormer existing that's going to be taken out with the link.
Well, not necessarily the dormers per se, but there's a stairs and a floor. Right?
Yeah.
And speak louder.
We're gonna.
The mic is up over your head, so, but you don't have to look at it.
So there's an existing third floor in the house. And then it sort of goes, it runs front to back of this dormer right here. So we're going to be removing that space. However, some of the dormers in that space are on the west side of the property. And we don't want to remove those. So we want to leave the existing house as is. We're just going to take the existing third floor out, and then where that space is, we'd like to make the bedroom. Right now, the bedrooms on that floor have sort of smaller ceilings. We'll take up from the purlin line and make there a little bit taller ceilings in those bedrooms.
This is totally an internal.
It's totally internal.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the reason for the question, because I don't know that that's on our purview. Okay, in other words, ours is external, so the fact that you've made that change is fine. You know, we don't have a hammer for that one.
Okay, terrific.
I think, am I correct?
I think so, but it does figure into some of the percentages and so forth. So
yes.
I'm looking at north elevation Parsonage Lane existing right now. And John, what I'm speaking about is this little dormer that's on the third floor.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's part of the house. There's been new work to that, the new kitchen area, that little dormer would come out because our new gambrel roof is coming up.
Right.
And hiding.
How many of those windows are lost when you do the connection?
Only that window there.
So the other two are going to face the new gambrel.
Yes.
And it's actually 4, right? Is it 4 windows besides the dormer?
All the elevations. On the westerly side, all the dormers are going to stay the same.
This is the area that I'm speaking of.
So we would, yes, these two would also come. Actually, that's not correct, because this one would stay. This one over here.
Yeah.
That guy would stay.
And this one here?
He would be gone. That's where.
Okay, so you're losing 3 windows on the second floor to the connection, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Would you mind describing this to me? It's hard
Sure.
to tell.
So what that is going to be a fireplace in the under the covered porch. And it would be here on the. The reason you can see is because the axonometric to get a better view of the house shows it going into it. But
Isn't that the fireplace?
It's the
Yes,
fireplace.
yeah, right there, yeah.
And
Where is it? Where does
you
it
hang out
go?
this way.
You
See the opening. on this side.
The opening is on this, is on this. Well, the opening is actually here.
Okay, so it's like this.
Yes, yes. That would be a white ranger.
Sir? You know, looking at the white brick, I just don't see where it knits, and I'm curious.
The firebox, that was.
It's right there.
It's right there.
Okay, and so this is, where's the flue go to?
Oh, it's a gas fireplace. It wouldn't be, doesn't have to go, it's not gonna go through the roof line.
You've answered the question, you said.
What is this material here? Is it shingling or is it?
No, that'd be a standing sheet metal roof, be copper, because it's got a low pitch on it. And so you decided that was, I'd be common, this is that architecture, also that will, need well the rest of its life. The shingle roof would be just too shallow pitch.
Okay, and then these doors here, screen doors.
Well, those are currently existing doors that are there.
Okay.
Yes. The renderer.
Got it, sorry. Just
I went through the St. Anne's Church, the rector and Peter Cook, and they would be interested in the furnishings off the back if they're being discarded.
I'm sure we'd be happy to allocate that, absolutely.
For the knowledge of the other board members, both the rectory and the parish house at St. Anne's came from this estate in Sagaponic and were moved over and became the grounds in the rectory at St. Anne's on Main Street in Bridgehampton.
Maybe one of the few people that knew that fact.
I
said you are probably one of the few people that knew that fact.
Well, I talked to Julie Green a lot. I did have a question about the driveway, and I'm looking now at the new site. And so the gravel driveway does change position.
Yes, that's correct.
And so there was some mention of concern of the visual impact of the garage from Parsonage. And so I didn't recall this when I visited this morning, went back for another site visit, but so there was concern over the visual impact of the 3-car garage and the doors there, and someone asked if the garage might be put underground, which I thought was quite a request. Or is there a way that you can foresee and perhaps give us a better clarification of what is going to be visible from the street?
Sure. Well, can we turn back to the
Yes.
landscape plan for a minute?
Oh, Tom, woo,
Yes.
Tom, I'm sorry, unfortunately, I've been muted, which is everyone's dream, but I've unmuted myself. And I'm glad you're talking about the garage at the end of the house. Has anyone addressed just the size of this house on Parsonage Lane? The length of it covering Parsonage Lane, I figured it's 127 feet from one end to another, and that's a really long house. So I would agree if they could move the garage and the gym room either underground or into the back of the house so that you wouldn't have this massive house right there on Parsonage, totally out of character. So I think further discussion on moving the garage is a good thing. And that's what I'm saying. Hello?
I don't disagree. I'm digesting.
Can I respond to the design intent?
Sure.
So the design intent was to put the 3-car garage where it is to create a parking court to hide as much of the garage as possible. And also, if you look at the front elevation on Parsonage, the garage allows us to do sort of a one-story element, a one-story gable end on that garage, which helps me mimic the screen porch on the right-hand side. So architecture, I tried to use that as a one-story element to try and give the house the same type of architectural profile as the existing structure. In regards to putting the garage underground, that does have some problematic issues in regards to parking and cutting it essentially 10-foot deep hole onto this property and sort of, in my mind, rendering it location of that and where the current pool house is very difficult to get into. However, it's just my opinion.
Okay. Has anyone addressed the eyebrow window? I missed last month.
It's been eliminated.
It was
Pigry.
taken out.
It's gone.
It's very difficult to use, what we're saying, but it's also very difficult for them to hear what we are saying. That's fine.
Do you pull the cars in now? You pull them in this bike cars.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Not too high.
Sure. Yeah, either way, I was gonna give you a call today anyways, just to kind of see what was going on. But yeah, I mean, if you want to drop that off, that's fine. Leave it in the mail.
Thank you.
Who is that?
Anthony Vermont.
In looking at the north elevation, which is the elevation I think that Pingree is regarding, I just don't know how visible the garage actually is in terms of the balance of the house in that north elevation.
I would argue by moving the driveway further to the east.
Yes.
And by allowing us to have more of a breadth. So if you're angled looking in through the gates, and then we are obviously going to be landscaping around that garage. I doubt you'll see much of anything.
Is I'd like to see a landscaping plan so that we have an idea of what plantings.
I'm sure that would be right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't think in general, I think one of the nice things about it was that right now the two driveways are right in front of each other,
Right.
which isn't great for anybody. And the property does have it's such a long piece of property, that would be great to sort of expand that and hide the garage.
Other idea, and I don't know whether it did come up in any of the conversation or the walkthrough, but the gazebo, is that staying?
No, it's not.
That's something else that you might find a home in Bridgehampton if it's moving.
Terrific.
Okay.
I can't imagine who knew.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'm trying as a board member to respond to Pingree's concern. For some reason, the location of this particular house and its mass right now does not seem to be disturbed by this extension. Just in my eye, though it is a very large house, it seems to be fitting as it's done on the premises that we're looking at. I don't think I have Pingree's concern for the length here. So many of our houses I do have a concern with, but I don't know why this one doesn't feel that way. Very well balanced for some reason. The difference of opinion. I just wanted Pingree to understand what I'm looking at.
Yeah, and if I could just make one comment.
Who are you, sir?
Yeah, go up and introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Bruce Williams, the current owner. Yeah, in regards to the garage, I actually think the proposed plan is a better plan if you're looking at it from Parsonage. Because right now, the gate gives you a wide open view into the existing two-car garage. And that's going to be completely eliminated. I'm assuming John and Michael are gonna, plant hedges, so you're really not gonna see it from Parsonage at all. I think it's actually a better plan. Because right now, the garage, the driveway goes right, and we park, right behind the kitchen, and then when we have guests or people, we have a bunch of cars sitting in the driveway in front of the garage. That's all going to be eliminated. So everything's going to be inside probably a significant hedge line that you're not going to see anything from Parsonage.
As our chairman, if we could see that suggestion as to what the foliage can be, we'd appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, I'm just pulling up a couple of things here on Google Earth. I'm going to share them with Megan.
I agree. I will say the property is so large itself that I feel like if you looked at it before and after, it fits the space of the land, right? So I don't disagree with that in its mass. I do agree with Pingree in where historically maybe the mass of this house would maybe have been split up into like 3 different homes with, grass in between or So I hear what you're saying, Pingree. I do.
So can I respond? real
Yeah,
quick?
please.
So we are taking one of the structures between the three buildings down completely, where our current one will be occupying where the parking court is. And I think given the size of the length of the property on the street, there are a lot of homes in very close to ours. In fact, the neighbor, I'm sure, is well over 100 feet in its length. So the question is, I hope the question is that our addition enhances the architecture of the cottage enough so that I feel like it's always been there. And that's always been my goal and goal of the current owner.
I'd say one more thing. As an owner of the twin house, that's a twin to this house. I think in your effort to save the house, you've used it as an excuse to build on something enormous in the back. I mean, nobody would even know the scale of that, of the original scale of that house. It's just stuck on it now, rather like a caboose. And then you just build all this house next to it. It's just, I think it's too big. It's just too big, and it's an excuse to build a big house. And I think the garage should go if you're going to do it. The house is too long. And I think there's a house that Michael Davis is building now on Bridge Lane. It's in construction now. And I believe this house is longer than that house that he is constructing now. And I'm trying to envision that house where this house is on Parsonage, and it's simply too big. And it has a mammoth roof. How high is this house? What's the height of the add-on?
The add-on is approximately, it's a little less than 30, it's a little less than the village code, about 32 feet, whereas the main house actually is taller. So we've had to retain the codes. So we wouldn't normally have made dimension lines, ridge lines that match, but they don't because I'm not allowed to. Right.
Well, I just have to summarize what I'm to think that this just doesn't have the spirit of the house that you've preserved. I love that you've preserved the house, but the rest of this just doesn't, it's just not in the spirit of the house you have preserved. That's all. It's just an excuse to build a really big house. That's my.
You want to speak? Yes, Michael Davis, Pingree.
Yes.
Just like to address some of your points. This house, I believe, is on plus or minus 5 acres. The next house to the east is 79 Parsonage Lane, which I built about 10 years ago. And that's on 3.5 acres. And the house is equally as long, 79 is equally as long as this one. Now, the challenge we had here was we wanted to retain the original house. And the only way we could keep that character intact was to push the house in the direction of the east. The other thing that the owner was concerned about was the view of garages from the road. Nobody wants to see a garage come up. So as we typically do, we will have some landscaping in place so that guests or anybody coming to the house are not going to look at garage doors. And as far as Bridge Lane is concerned, they're very comparable in length. They're maybe 7 feet longer, this house, than Bridge Lane. Bridge Lane is, I think, what's so deceptive about Bridge Lane is the road frontage is significant. Almost more so than on this side of the property. So I think that is probably, creating a misconception.
How, Michael, well, now that I've got you here, how long is that house you're building on Bridge Lane? Just for comparison.
Off the top of my head, off the top of my head, I would say it's 120 feet.
120 feet.
Yeah.
Well, this one is 127.5, so it is about the same.
And this is on nearly double, this lot is double the size of
Bridge Lane. We haven't asked for, we haven't gone to the ZBA, do not intend to go to the ZBA for any additional footage. We are foregoing with the gazebo because that it takes us over our allowance. And so quite honestly, I don't think there's any other way that you can add on to this house without disturbing the original architecture.
Well, you've added quite a visual mass. Do you have, does everything have to be symmetrical? Do you have to match the two?
Well, I think it's a pretty sympathetic way of dealing with the original architecture. You know, I think John's done a really good job here. So I don't really have anything further to add other than I think this house conforms as of right to the size of the lot. And we've done our utmost to ensure that the original integrity is in place.
You would consider parking the cars underground the way you have done on Fairfield Pond? Put the cars.
There's a lot of difference when you're talking about a 1.4 acre lot versus a 5 acre lot and people needing to put cars somewhere.
You can't see them. It's the greatest idea.
Yeah, it also costs about as much as building another foundation. But that aside, I don't think that the owner wants to go underground to park his cars. He doesn't want to see his garage doors. They've been treated very sympathetically by John here in terms of mirroring the architecture. I honestly think that we've done everything that we possibly could do in this event. Thank you.
The garage is downsized from the original? Is that what you're saying?
We took the garage out.
Yes, from the base stuff.
This building, which is.
This stay is conformed. The main house, this is lost and this stay is taken. So what I'd like to ask for is a landscaping plan that illuminate that, as well as a visual of the proposed new entrance on Parsonage, the driveway shift. Okay, and if that can be something that you can come back with, we can continue the conversation on that, I think.
Yep.
Nick, did you have any comments?
I understand both sides of the argument. I do agree it's an awfully large house. Was there perhaps any other schematics that we have not seen that would provide an option to Pingree's comments?
Well, I think once you understand that the hedges are going to be maintained, is what I'm thinking you're doing, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. And if you take into account the new driveway will be further east on Parsonage, your whole perspective of what you're going to be able to see is going to be changing. That's significant.
But either way, Tom, I would just say that typically we don't rely on landscaping to determine the architecture. It just seems very, I would say, like, even if I'm just looking at your drawing here and it's the middle north elevation Parsonage Lane on the right versus left, even if the elevation were to remain as is, but say the right portion were to step back, I don't know, 10, 15 feet, it would provide less of a mirrored view. I know there's some articulation there, and I appreciate John's efforts. I know it's a large house and important project, but I see a bit what Pingree's saying, and it does seem to bear quite a mark on the piece of land there.
Interesting, because as a board member for many years, we have a specific purpose, which I think you have amply satisfied in terms of doing this house. May not be the house that I want, but you're entitled to build the house that you want, as long as it doesn't violate our basic constraints. And it's very specific in our code as where we are. I appreciate what has been done here. I'm sorry to say that
I think the conversation is going beyond the purview. The house is entitled to be judged for what it is.
Well, I think as you may be aware, the house is in contract and it's contingent on a positive outcome of this meeting.
Down to that.
We're more than happy to continue working with the board if they want to see landscaping and that kind of thing, and then it'll be a new owner per se. But architecturally, I think if we do, as was just suggested, and start pushing the garage to the south, that you'll start seeing this from Sagamay. As of now, you don't see anything but the original house from Sagamay,
brilliant.
whichever direction you come from, which I think is the real criteria here. So-
And again, as, you know, I appreciate all the comments, but as the current owner for 20 years, prior to this board review, there's never any context of, you know, we love the house, we live there, it's beautiful, very hard to leave. But I think Michael and Greg have done a phenomenal job in terms of maintaining the character. And if you all walk the property, which I'm assuming you have, at this point, you know, it's just a very sizable piece of land in Sagaponic. And it's lasted for 120 years. And with its design, it's going to last another 120 years. It's a beautiful design. I wish I could have done it, but it's just fantastic.
Don, it's-
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
Anthony Woods, any comments? Since we're just observations you might offer?
I really commiserate with everyone's comments about the size and scale. But again, I think the approach is very sensitive, given that there is that kind of acreage. And I understand the mirroring, but part of the shingle style are the sort of the eccentricities. But all in all, I think this is sort of sensitive progress to get the client what they want. But one of my favorite houses to drive by, I've got to say, Parsonage or Sagamay.
Just asking for input, they aren't voting. Right.
Anyways, thanks for letting me comment, even though I'm just a alternate today.
Right. Thank you.
Tom, could I ask him one more question? Is anyone here? Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I am looking at one of the drawings, renderings of the house, looking at it from Parsonage Lane, where the eyeball window was removed.
Yes.
And it looks like the roof line there is much taller than it needs to be. And I think that's what's giving this house, the look of a tremendous house. Is that just an error in the drawing? It's Mr. Laffey's drawing.
Yes.
It's number 2.
Yes, okay. So
Elevation.
you are correct. Again, the purlin lines between the two gambrels is the
Yes.
same, and that new roof line has to drive from the first floor up to that line and then back again. It is true, it is taller because it's not as wide as the existing gambrels, much wider, right? And the addition here in the middle between the two linking space is much smaller. But it's in this type of architecture, it's fine to have the similar types of pitches in a house, as long as they end up, once this ends up, the purl lines end up meeting at the same place, so there's continuity of the roof line around. And it is, because it is taller than the adjacent two pitches, right? But I don't have an issue with that, but you are correct, it is taller. The
It
pitch.
is tall. And you're saying it has to stay that way?
Well, we're starting at the same point as the old house, and we have to end at the purlin height of the existing structure. So that length gets taller because the link space between the two gambrels is not as wide. It's not uncommon in shingle style architecture, and particularly with gambrels, to have different dissimilar roof pitches. As long as,
Yeah, I'm looking at a series of 6 colored pictures.
Yep.
And one on the right in the middle seems to have this kind of a roof that isn't as tall. Do you see that one? It says north elevation parsonage.
Yep.
It's the color picture.
Mhm.
There you have the roof line lower.
I think it's perspective.
It's a perspective. This actually.
Well, is that how it's gonna look?
Right. Look at it in elevation.
Right.
The drawing.
I think maybe what you're not seeing, and you are correct, is that in the rendering itself, if you follow the Perlin line from left to right, and then hook it up with the dormer.
Right.
You would get her.
Hold that over by the camera so that she can understand what you're talking about. The camera's to the right of the right monitor. Had to do that a couple times. A little bit lower. There you go. Oh, I'm sorry, up again.
What's missing in the rendering is that the Perlin line is not really delineated as well as it should be. It would show you that the roof line continues horizontally, left and right, until it meets the middle dormer. Right now, I understand what I'm saying now. It looks like it's one big sort of roof, one straight roof coming up. And that's not what it is at all.
That's how it is. I'm really sorry. I'm sitting here and looking at these tiny little pictures. So I'll have to wait till I come home to look at how it's really going to look.
If you look at these,
We're gonna zoom in for you, Pingree.
if you look at the architectural drawings.
Yeah. Okay, in real life, it's much lower. In real life, it's lower.
If you could,
North elevation parsonage, right?
if you could look
It's
at,
not all like your drawings. It's much lower. That's good, which is a good thing.
It's not cool.
You can see better?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, without the eyebrow, of course.
This is kind of interesting on your roof because this one does not.
yeah, it can't because this is 32 inches tall. Right. So again, making it bigger.
Understood.
Look lower. And this right here.
And I've driven by this a million times, and before I was able to walk back in there, I have to be honest, you would never know what is going on back there. You would never know how big it feels, how open it feels when you get back there, which is, I mean, it's sad because it does feel open once you get back in there. But just because I've had that experience, I now feel like the bigger house, maybe I still wouldn't know. I still wouldn't know because it's like a wall privet, which we don't always love, but you know, I do think there's a way to kind of, with the curved driveway, completely disguise legs of the house that feel looming and that may not once you have the landscaping in there. And I know we don't want to rely on that, but I think you kept the character. You older things I think that are going to the church that I love, but it's modernized and you've kept it traditional. And I love that you've kept the sag main elevation the same. So I don't have any.
Just to answer your question about length, 519 Bridge Lane is 4.5 feet shorter than this proposed house, and 79 Parsonage, which is the house to the east, the neighbor to 397, is 150 feet.
And this one is how many feet?
127.
127.
And the neighbor is on less acreage.
Yeah, right. 3.67.
It was originally part of the original house. I sold it.
Oh, really?
Many years ago to his we don't push it. And again, I appreciate all the input. I think Michael's point is that it is in contract. It's been off the market for 3 months.
Not on consideration.
Okay.
Not on
That's fine.
consideration
That's
yet.
fair.
No
Not gonna help-
pressure.
Not gonna help. Okay. Yeah, I know my position here, and I'm prepared to make a motion to approve this, not subject to, with an appreciation that the applicant will deliver a plan of the foliage that is going to go in, so that we can have it for the record. But the motion is not subject to that. It's a request that you deliver that.
Yeah.
Robert, this is a discussion item only. Full approval will come once they submit a building permit to your board.
If that's true, now you know where
This
we are.
is a building permit.
I've never entered the building.
Okay, that- The clarity from John means that you have another meeting to come to anyway. If we don't have the building permit application, we can't.
We do have the building permit application.
I don't see how we can vote on this, on this house yet. I don't see how we can. This has nothing, our board has nothing to do with who's bought what or who has a down payment on what. This board is to approve a proper house in Sagaponack, regardless of anything else.
I agree, we already told that to the owner here.
Okay.
In terms of his
And-
position. The question is the position of this board. I'm expressing mine. John, you want to take a look to see if we have a building permit?
I know I haven't entered a building permit for this. This
Okay.
came here as a discussion item, and they can walk away with your votes as far as they know where they're gonna go. So when it comes up to you for formal approval, it's really just a matter of paperwork.
Okay, so in other words, so the position, you've heard the positions of the various board members in terms of where we are at the moment. We can't do an application till, we can't act on an application without the materials that have been described. We would appreciate the landscaping as part of the application. And hopefully we can give you an answer on our next meeting.
Because this came to us as a discussion item.
Because we don't have it as a discussion item on our agenda.
Right.
And just, John, it's put it in as a regular addition and renovation, not a discussion item.
All right. So what do you want to do?
Well, until everything is properly filed, I don't think it's appropriate to vote on it.
Yeah.
You certainly can. I mean, it's your board, and we can take the approval as long as once I put it in, the final renderings with landscape come in exactly as you approved today, it'll stay approved.
According to the permit form in the front of the file, we're missing the application fee and a project limiting fence.
Well, that would be for issuance of building permit. All of that would happen after your approvals anyway.
Right, okay. Well, the application fee would, right?
But is there an application number?
There's not a number on there.
No,
Because I haven't entered one.
right, okay. Very good.
So for clarity's sake, without an application number, it is the opinion, your opinion, that we can act on it subject to the application being completed properly, formally submitted.
Engineering and everything else, yes.
Okay.
What?
Okay, very good. Well,
Don't we have an attorney? Don't we have an attorney around here?
he's not present today at the
Yes,
moment,
he
but
is.
he
I'm
is.
sorry.
That's
No,
unfortunate.
If we don't,
Christopher, go ahead.
yes, no, I think we should clarify if we have the application and if there's no application number assigned to it, perhaps you can adjourn to the next meeting, because I don't think it would be, if it's not an official application before the board.
There's an application form in the file.
But there's no number on.
There's no number assigned. I know it's a formality. You could pass a resolution, but I don't know the impact of that without the formal application before you.
I'd like to do this.
So it's
be
essentially just a straw poll.
enough time. I move that this be adjourned till next session, when an application will be properly approved so we can act on it. Very good. No, I cannot go to committee.
Okay, is there a second for that motion?
What was the motion? Could we?
I'll do the second.
Okay, thank you.
What council has just said is we do not have a proper application in front of us because there is no number on the request, which means we should not act. Therefore, I'm asking it to be adjourned till next week, next session.
And Nick has seconded that. All in favor?
Aye.
Robert, aye.
Tom, aye.
I'm sorry, I feel like it's a little unfair to make them wait another month before the.
No, we can't. The lawyer said that we can't do it. We're following council's advice. We were prepared to move, but he said we can't.
So the next meeting is a month from now?
A month from now.
Yes.
Well, July 26th. Yeah, that's clearly harmful to me.
Unfortunately,
I know, I
the issue that is presented to us is not caused by us, it's caused by your representatives.
Okay, I thought it happened. Okay. I understand, I'm not.
Okay.
Council's opinion.
I'm a neighbor.
And I understand totally. We tried to do everything we could.
I appreciate your help.
Apologies, all in favor, then just Megan says that.
Okay, so we have 3 votes to adjourn. Very good. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Christopher. And we have one further item on the agenda, and then a short discussion on the further topic before we adjourn.
Excuse me, may we?
Yeah. Could we close that door? If possible.
We finished that. Done. Yes, we're good now.
Is someone here from 518 Bridge Lane?
Yes, good afternoon. Anthony Vermandois, 68 Union Street, Sag Harbor. I am the architect representing the homeowner. I'd like to go into screen sharing.
Yes, please.
All right. So hopefully you can see the photograph of the house here, which is well, the proposed property on Bridge Lane. And basically what we're proposing to do here is 4 exterior changes, and I'm going to go from least ambitious to most ambitious. I'm going to actually stop sharing for a second here. All right. Can you see the architectural drawings here?
Yes.
Okay.
So do you want to see this?
There we go. Okay. So as I said, 4 changes here that we're proposing from least to most ambitious. I think the least ambitious thing that we're going to do is in this back corner here, there's sort of a strange kind of indentation and a bay window that was added at some later point. And we're just going to kind of straighten that all out and kind of systematize it to make the first floor plan work better. Next thing that we're planning to doing is a shed dormer on the 2nd floor. This is it from the rear. And then this is it from the side here. So here's the existing side gable, and here's the shed dormer coming out, and this existing 1-story wing and 1.5-story wing in the back is all existing. Third proposal here is to lift the house up and put a new foundation in underneath it. When put back down, excuse me, I'm a little hoarse. when put back down on the foundation, the ridge height will be exactly the same height relative to existing grade. It'll just be on a new, set on a new foundation. The current foundation is just like a 5 or 6 foot deep block foundation. And then the fourth proposal that we're proposed thing that we'd like to do here is if you move over here to the site, sort of rough site plan here, you see it's a very small lot for Sagaponic. I have a feeling it was at one time a much larger lot that got subdivided over time. But at any rate, you can see here is the outline of where the existing house is. It's set pretty far back on the relative to the property. So there's really effectively no backyard. What we would like to do is move the house about 20 feet closer to the street. Exact same kind of side yards and whatnot, but just sort of sliding it 20 feet down. Once we're lifting the house to do a new foundation anyways, that would be a good opportunity to do that. And we'll just gain some more additional rear yard space. So that's really it.
Yeah. Anthony, this was built as a residence for the wife of the Secretary of State Seward, who purchased Alaska. It was part of the parcel that goes all the way out to Sag Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
And the son bought the old farmhouse from my family in the 1880s or so.
Okay.
When we moved across the street.
Wow.
So that's the history of it. To my knowledge, my lifetime has not seen too many changes to it, save for the extension of the front porch.
Yeah.
It was built for the mother to reside in after the father had passed away, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, there's an existing, referring to an existing deck on the front there, and then we would propose to remove that.
Yep.
Yeah, and per your point, very few kind of changes to the house over time. The interior is fairly intact.
How close if you shift the house up forward, how close does that come to the beech tree?
Let me give you an exact number here. Hold on 1 minute, please.
Are you keeping the beech tree?
Yes.
Don't drive.
Yeah, so it'll be, let's say from the front porch to the end of the property would be about 45 feet now. And I think there's a little, there's some distance between the actual property line and the edge of pavement as well.
Okay.
Kind of the limiting thing to moving this any further forward would be just putting in an updated septic system.
So you don't have to tear it down. You're gonna lift it and adjust some things
Yes.
in the foundation and then
And move
deck.
forward, yeah.
Yeah, and moving forward, I would say moving the house forward is the most ambitious thing I'd say we're doing to this. And it's the one thing that we're going to need to get area variances for. So that's kind of why we wanted to kind of get your pulse on this first before going before the ZBA, which is going to require quite a bit of paperwork and whatnot.
The large dormer is somewhat ambitious too, but
Sorry, Tony, I didn't hear you. What's ambitious?
I was saying that from our committee standpoint, the large dormer is somewhat ambitious also as far as changing some of the character of the house.
Yeah, most of that dormer from the back there. One thing I would say about the dormer is it is set back from the back wall of the house. It's about 10 feet further back, and then I'm setting it in about a foot from the side gable there to give some some relief, which doesn't really show up too well in 2D, but when we come with the 3D renderings, it should look a lot less stark than it does in the kind of 2D image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
May I ask a question of the architect? You said you had to go to the ZBA for variance to move it forward?
Yes. Yeah, I think we basically have a negative building envelope. So I think anything that we do, any changes at all are going to need some degree of setback relief.
So they're moving it.
I understand, but it's in the setback, the normal setback is how much?
80 feet for the front.
80 feet for the front yard.
Do you have any
Yeah,
plans?
the property is barely 80 feet deep as it is. Right now the property is, let's say, well, 126 feet, but once you
so you're
once you
firmly,
deal with the width of the house itself, there's nothing left there.
there's pre-existing non-conforming on all four sides, or?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you have plans for those phone wires or those whatever wires on the front?
For the what? I'm sorry?
Wires that I see in the photographs on the main first page pictures or last pictures.
You're suggesting that it go underground? Is that what you're asking?
Is that a bad subject? I'm suggesting that the wires, although they might be historic, are not appealing to me.
Yeah, I think any, I mean, that would, part of the full presentation, we would address the things like that. But yeah, if it's a matter of burying wires and things like that, sure.
When you come back, would you kindly present it in such a way where we could see the existing compared directly on the same page to your plan?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's been
this
really
is,
helpful.
for me, this is a discussion matter, and it unfortunately is just too premature. Because this level of variance that you're gonna ask for has to be acted on. This is not something where we as a board are giving you a letter of support in terms of what you're doing. It's a substantial change in terms of, we know that it's a very small lot. I just feel very uncomfortable trying to give you a general feeling of what we would say about the changes when you have an obstacle in front of you that is larger than anything we would put in place. So, I mean, nothing has been said that I think we're gonna throw out, but you got a bath to fill up before the baby can get put in the bath.
Tom, could I
Yeah.
say one? Thank you for thinking of the tree, but what concerns me with this house is where they're gonna park the cars. They're moving it forward now, so I'm assuming cars will be parked in the back of the house in the plan.
Actually, along the side, it's a little bit, if you look at the property, it's a little bit misleading because there's really heavy vegetation there that's actually mostly on our property. If that gets cut back a little bit, there's plenty of room to run a driveway up along the side of the house to get the required parking in without having to go around the back. Yeah. Right now people are just parking we just park in the front lawn basically because there's no driveway at all.
All right, thank you.
Which side were you thinking about doing the driveway on?
On the right side.
Right side, okay.
Yeah, there's a little more room on the right side.
Yes, I noticed on my visit this morning that the brush has been cleared on the left side of the house.
Yeah.
Like I said, as Robert says, he has to get a variance to even begin with, work with it.
I will say, since it's just a discussion, the landscape concepts and plans are helpful to us when you come back.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the wire side, 32 feet. Very good. So you're saying we would not give a letter of support to the idea?
Right now, I mean, I could not support it. I think this is something that's a very substantial change. Okay, it's a pre-existing home, which has the right to be there. I have no idea how the ZBA will act, nor do I believe that in such a variance that we as a board that are dealing with the home itself should be participants. I just don't see, we've been asked in the past in discussions relative to a variance, not one of such substance about the distance from the front yard. And in those cases, I think it's been more than appropriate for us as a board to try to either support or not support a proposition. Here, I think we would have to wait for the ZBA to say, yes, we'd be willing to consider this, or we'll do it under the following circumstances, none of which we can anticipate. I do not think we should be involved.
Okay. Any other opinions on that? Nick, any thoughts?
I can see both sides of the argument, and I do think it's important for the ZBA to put their stamp on whether or not they would approve it, to be honest.
Yeah.
You can see the architect's position. But I think it would be important to go that route.
Right. I mean, the house has been there for quite a few years, obviously. I think the interest of the board would be to preserve it as best as can be for the character and well-being of that area of SAG. I think it would probably be best to just say that we're interested in seeing what how it progresses at this point. Christopher, do you have any input as to a letter of support?
No, I think the board's taking the right approach on it. One thing you could do, if you could just limit your letter or your recommendation to just some of the architectural elements, while making it clear that you are not opining on the issues that may be presented to the ZBA. But I can also understand if the board doesn't feel comfortable with, given the potentially substantial variances that may be required, that the board feels it'd be out of place to make any such letter at this time. And I think they're well within their discretion to do so.
Very good. Thank you. Anthony, do you have any other?
I think the only question that I would maybe ask, just to add, understanding your position on the moving the house forward. What about let's assuming that we didn't move it forward, the proposal to put the house on a new foundation.
I wouldn't have problems with that.
Sounds like a logical necessity.
Yeah.
Moving forward in the future, I wouldn't have any problem with that.
Great.
Does the new dormer, does that actually, what is gained with that?
I'm sorry?
With the new rear dormer, what is actually gained in that?
Just gaining some headroom on the second floor. It's very, it's a very tight second floor, bump your head kind of situation. So that will help with that greatly. And it seemed like the most discreet place where we could add some additional room to the second floor, because it's not visible, obviously not visible from the street, and really even minimally visible from the rear.
Okay. Very good. Any other comments from the board members on Zoom? Anthony?
I applaud the efforts to keep the facade the same, especially hearing the provenance on it, which just makes me like the village even more. Again, having the expansion of the dormer window in an unobtrusive visual space is great, because it will have to be unobtrusive for not to, I think, have a pretty strong effect. But I do worry about trying to set back the house, or move the house forward, because I think you'll be almost asking for them to require you to put your parking sort of all the way in the back versus the side. Because you will all of a sudden have a little more setback within the, you'll be less pre-existing non-conforming parking in the back. So good luck with the ZBA, but it could be a can of worms once you get in there.
Thanks.
Okay.
All
Thank you
right.
very much.
Great, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Committee of two. Okay, Robert is out of the country next month. You might want to just take that down. Nick, are you too busy to take that on?
We have nothing.
I always have time for you, Tom.
Thank you. All right. Let's go ahead with that then. Nick and I will do that. Let's stop the recording and adjourn, or we have to
Motion to
adjourn
adjourn.
first.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Very good. End of the recording.